Awards, Global Development Awards. And then also, welcome to you, Bernardo Ruiz from Agro-America. Great to have you again, and congratulations to you too, being a finalist. Samir Matal, thank you, great, from Water Health International. Delighted to have you with us, and congratulations for being a large company winner. Katie Hyson and Sarah Pasternak, thank you very much for joining us from Barclays and GSK, respectively, for your amazing Live Well program, which you're going to share with us as well. Again, another finalist. So thank you all for joining us, and most of all, thank you as participants for joining this conversation. So moving forward, as we all are very well aware, the Sustainable Development Goals, moving on to the Millennium Development Goals, the Sustainable Development Goals have been in place now for a couple of years, and as business in the community, we've been championing this agenda for over 15 years, where our role is very much about inspiring, engaging, supporting, and challenging businesses to get on board, get involved with the agenda, and actually help us all together in collaboration to achieve those goals, because after all, the goals are affecting all of us everywhere. They are, of course, the most comprehensive set of goals, with 17 goals and 169 targets, so we have our work cut out. But the new report from that's been launched on the success of all this, the progress on the goals so far, is showing us a very good set of good sort of indication of progress. Goals are obviously covering the issues of social protection, the issues of environmental protection, and the issues of partnerships for the goals. It's of course where all of us come in, as businesses, as charities, as government institutions, as academics. We all have a huge role to play here. And my goodness, we have some way to go. There are some great resources that you will all be familiar with, I'm sure, about where to find out what's going on with the goals. And these two key resources are shown on the slide here to help you delve more deeply into the agenda. Of course, there's been the recent report, as I was just saying, and in terms of the goals, there's been another recent report that's come from GlobeScan, and Sustainability, who've done some really good work in this space, and it indicates to us that, of course, whilst there is progress, and it's progress based on the second anniversary, so it's it's showing that progress in the right direction. And you can see from the slide here that non-governmental organisations are more engaged in the goals. And there's a lot more to be done from the national governments and the private sector. And this session is all about private sector engagement in the SDGs. Without private sector engagement, as we all know, there is no chance of these SDGs being achieved. And so through collaboration, working together and cooperation, we have a much greater chance of achieving the goals, which is after all, and the goals are after all, the framework for all of us to 2030. So there's a lot to be done. There's a lot to be achieved, but there's an awful lot that has been done, and there's a lot of excitement and inspiration that is drawn from some of the case studies that you'll hear this afternoon or this morning, depending on where you are. The goals are used by different organizations in different ways, and of course they're used by business to help inform decision making. They're used by business to help support their corporate strategy and development, and as the recent report will show, there's been some good progress. The economic case for action around the SDGs is also vital in order for business to continue to be committed to the goals and to ensure the goals are sustainable, and indeed those businesses going forward are sustainable. So it's encouraging to see that the early indications are that things are going in the right direction. Recent reports from recent reports around the fact that the World Council, the Business Commission has done a fantastic report which talks about the $12 trillion that can be unleashed if we address the SDGs effectively. This is an amazing opportunity for business, an incredible opportunity for innovation, an incredible opportunity for new business development. So the fact that there's as a goal there, as an opportunity there for over $12 trillion in new business opportunities. And of course, they say 60% of corporates are already integrating the Sustainable Development Goals into their business strategy. There is still a hell of a lot more to do. There's a lot more to go and much more to achieve. But the fact is we are starting off in the right direction. But I think we should all be questioning ourselves the degree to which we're paying lip service to the goals and the degree to which we're embedding them into our business strategies. This is critical for all of our futures. Of course, the goals help us to support and drive innovation. They help support and drive new value and adding value to value chains. We can see some positive shifts across the goals, but there are some goals which really need further and more focus and development. And as I said at the beginning, our role at Business in the Community is to work to inspire, engage, support and challenge business to embrace the Sustainable Development Goals, to embrace sustainability, to really help build a fairer society and a more sustainable future for all. So on that note, and with great credit to everybody that's with us, including the Business Fight Poverty, who we've worked with for years, and we are very grateful and very pleased to be partnered with over all of this time. Over to you, Richard, to talk about business and the SDGs.
Right. Thanks, Sue, for that great introduction and for inviting us to participate in this this webinar today. It's great to have the opportunity to share some thoughts on the business case for the SDGs and some highlights of some recent work that we've recently completed with a group of companies, which has really looked at that challenge which you referred to earlier of how companies can really embed the SDGs into their core operations and move from sort of more rhetoric and commitment to something much more fundamental. So really achieving the SDGs is part of business as usual. For those of you who are sort of unfamiliar with our approach, challenges really are a process that we use to help answer a very specific question that our companies are grappling with through a structured process of research and engagement over a fixed period of time. So with a group of companies, we've tried to look at this challenge of how to embed the goals into the core of the business. So I suppose a starting point for this discussion really is to sort of note the fact that actually the business case of sustainability is not new, and I think we feel is generally well understood, certainly by large companies. And so you quite rightly referenced the milestone report that the Business and Sustainable Development Commission put out in February of this year, Better Business, Better World, that, as you say, highlights this $12 trillion opportunity. They analysed 4 economic sectors, which they estimated represented about 60% of the real economy. So a fairly significant sum. But I think what they're really trying to show is that delivering the SDGs, contributing to the SDGs, will really help to support the bottom line. And we know, obviously, companies increasingly recognise that their success is linked to the environment and the social systems that they operate in, and creates opportunities to grow markets and achieve productivity savings, reduce risks, and strengthen brands and improve their regulatory compliance. And I think we're seeing more and more examples of that as we go forward. So for us, and I'm trying to move the slide forward. Sorry, I'm not if that could be done at your end.
There we go. Is that good, Richard?
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you. So really what we've been concerned with is really trying to understand what the SDGs mean for business. And this is very much set against the context of as we move from the sort of the rhetoric and the dialogue of the goals 2 years ago to the fact that all sectors are now grappling with the practicalities of implementing the goals, not least business. So what we've really been trying to understand with a group of companies is how the SDGs can be linked to strategic priorities and how to put them in the heart of the business. And it's been a really fascinating process, actually, to work with these companies to look at how they're doing that. And the result is a new guide that we've developed with support from CEMEX and De Beers and Pearson and from DFID. Which is available on our to download on our website, which we launched at our conference in Oxford yesterday, called Embedding the Sustainable Development Goals into Business. and it seeks to really answer 3 questions. What's different about the SDGs? How do they add to existing sustainability strategies? How can a company move from high-level commitments to embedding into the core? And what are some sort of success factors? And this is very much a snapshot of practice, of real-time practice. So these companies are all still at a relatively early stage of their engagement with the SDGs, but I think some interesting learnings are emerging. So if we go onto the next slide, I just want to give you a few highlights, really, of the guide. So as you said earlier, in terms of what's different about the SDGs, yeah, they apply to all sectors of society now, private sector included, organisations in the north, organisations in the south. So they are a universal agenda. They're comprehensive in scope and very much acknowledge the interconnections between the social, environmental, and economic dimensions of sustainability. So highly comprehensive and crucially very much focused concretely on implementation, backed up by 169 targets and countless indicators. And I think also critically they are really bedded in a process of engagement and dialogue. So ultimately, all sectors are sort of bought into them, and they are understood to be obviously very legitimate. So in our conversations and our research with companies, what we've really been trying to do is say, what do they add to existing efforts? And there are really 4 things that jump out in our work. The first is that they really are a means to enable companies to ensure a much closer alignment with their goals and priorities, and align those more with global and national governments, and in that way enables them to sort of target their resources, their investments and their capabilities much more closely with global and national needs. Secondly, we see that they're a real driver for collaboration. The fact that we have a sort of that all organisations can start with a common shared purpose from the start means that it's much easier to break down barriers for collaboration. And as I said earlier, because they are so comprehensive and cover the environmental, social, and economic dimensions, they really are a sort of also a driver to enable more holistic and more joined-up solutions to the SDGs. We've also seen a lot of evidence that the SDGs can really catalyse greater impact and engagement from companies. Being able to sort of align with a global recognised movement, which is cemented around the SDGs, has really given extra impetus for companies to almost sort of turbocharge their sustainability work, and provides them with a sort of platform to engage internally and externally in their supply chains and with their wider stakeholders. So there's a real sense there that the SDGs have added extra impetus to what company, or can add extra impetus to what companies are already doing. I think the 4th area is around accountability, that they enable companies to really also demonstrate their contribution to development and sustainability in a way that all sectors can really understand. So moving on to the next slide, and just trying to get into a little bit more of the meat of the guide that we've developed. What we've done is really identify 5 key tasks that companies need to undertake to really operationalize their engagement with the SDGs and help to move the goals from the CSR and sustainability and corporate affairs teams into the core of the business. And what I will say is that these steps that we've identified very much map closely to the SDG Compass that I'm sure a number of people on this webinar will be familiar with, which was produced by the Global Compact, WBCSD, and GRI, that sets out a sort of framework for engagement with the SDGs. So there's a sort of strong correlation between these steps and that. The 5 steps that we've really called out here is this first one of building understanding in the core of the business. And that might seem like an obvious point, but I think sometimes it's difficult to underestimate how much of the the understanding of the external agenda and the SDGs is really locked within the senior leadership team and within the sustainability and external affairs teams of the companies. And a real concerted effort needs to be made to take that message into the core of the business and really make the business case. So what we're seeing from companies, the companies that we've worked with, certainly is a real effort there to make sure that everyone across the business understands what the SDGs mean to business. A second step is all around mapping and prioritization. And I think what everyone's clear is probably that the SDGs are relevant to, in some way, or all the SDGs are relevant to every organisation in some shape or form, and that companies need to really pay attention to both their positive impacts they can have and also the negative impacts in relation to the SDGs. It's obviously important that companies can really prioritise where they focus their efforts in support of the SDGs based on their most material impacts and where they can have the most impact. So what we're seeing from companies, and what you'll be able to see in the guide we developed, is how companies have gone about that process of mapping and prioritising which goals they focus on. I think the third step is, I think for us, a really critical one that's jumped out of this work, which is how you set targets that are relevant to people in the business. And this isn't really easy, because if you look at the targets and goals and how they're framed, a lot of them aren't actually framed in a way that or correlate to the way companies set their own business performance targets and how they measure their performance. So what we're seeing is companies increasingly finding ways to capture the spirit and the ambition of the goals, to translate SDGs into much more business relevant targets. And there are examples in the guides, again, of how companies are looking at that. Fourthly, as I said before, sustainability and sustainability initiatives within companies, isn't new. It's something that is increasingly integral to corporate strategy anyway. But we're seeing some interesting examples of where companies are really starting to try and draw the SDGs into their and integrate them with their existing activities. And we're seeing that in the area of products and services. You'll see some examples in the guide there. How they're really bringing the goals into existing initiatives to really generate new momentum within those initiatives and to attract new resources, new funding. We've got some interesting examples in there of how companies are really using harnessing their business processes and performance management systems and aligning the goals with them. And again, you'll find some examples, and also how they're increasingly using their policy and advocacy activities to drive action around the goals. The final area is obviously around reporting. I'm not going to say a lot about that, all to say that there's been some great work done by, again, the people behind the SDG Compass, where they have done some great mapping of how the SDGs align with the GRI reporting framework. So increasingly, companies are able to use their existing reporting mechanisms to also show how they're contributing to the goals. Very quickly, my last slide is really just to say there are some success factors that we've identified. I don't think so. I think I'm running over time. I'm not going to go into those now, but also they're in the guide, but they help to highlight some lessons we've learned from the companies in terms of how they've successfully gone about started the process of embedding the goals into their business. And I will draw breath there.
Richard, thank you so much. That's an absolutely fantastic canter through your amazing new report, which we all obviously will be downloading immediately after this webinar. And thank you very much for giving us that overview. It's really helpful, and the work that you've been doing and the work that you've been doing with all the various companies that you work with is really to be applauded. Thank you very much for sharing it with us and sharing it with the audience here. So without further ado, we'll move on to then talking about the trends and in the SDGs and the adoption of those trends, and the examples and the sort of the trends that have come out through the Unilever Global Development Award, which is something that we at Business Energy Community have been running. We've been running a form of this award for the last 15 years. So we've got a lot of case studies, and we're delighted to share with you the insights from the case studies that have been drawn out of this year's entries. So to do that, I may introduce Elizabeth Lincoln, part of our team here at Business in the Community, who'll be talking about those trends and those pieces of information there.
Thank you, Sue. So to start off with, it's important to say that the SDG framework has been developed to be adopted as a whole by businesses, and the impact to be assessed across all 17 goals, and its purpose is very much to be viewed in its entity. Yet what we're still seeing is that companies, governments, and all key stakeholders tend to cherry pick the SDGs they want to focus on and avoid addressing others that don't necessarily meet their corporate priorities and comfort zones for that matter. This, of course, causes certain SDGs to be progressing and others, unfortunately, to be lagging against their 2030 goals. So 3 interesting trends that did come out of the report that Sue recently just spoke about, the UN Secretary General's 2017 Sustainability Report, revealing that there is notable progress being made on SDG 3, so good health and well-being, SDG 6, clean water and sanitation, and SDG 15, life on land, which is a result of the public and private sector focusing efforts on improving access to health services and programs that encourage health living, but also developing new solutions to provide clean water to water-scarce regions. We're also seeing that organizations and governments taking action to protect the well-being of workers and natural resources in supply chain. Secondly, the report finds that there is a massive need to do more work in SDG 7, which is affordable and clean energy, SDG 12, responsible consumption and production, SDG 13, climate action, and lastly, SDG 14, life below water. Unfortunately, the last trend that they found is that SDG 16, being peace, justice, and strong institutions, is in fact pointing to worsening conditions, and a lot of effort needs to be put into this SDG. So hopefully what we'll see in the future is an increase in companies assessing and addressing their impact on all 17 SDGs, reflecting the true spirit of the SDGs. Now, from our own experience here at BITC, from our Unilever Global Development Award supported by Business Fights Poverty, 2017 revealed 5 key trends. Right, yes. Sorry. So our 5 key trends, firstly was we saw an increase in managing holistic approaches that seek to address numerous sustainable development goals, so going above and beyond just addressing one goal, but in fact addressing around 3 to 4. Secondly, strong business case across all applications, which very much signifies a real appreciation of the commercial benefits and opportunities of investing in the SDGs. Third, amongst the finalists, those that really stood out were they developed strong, almost symbiotic cross-sector partnerships, where success relied on the core expertise of each organization, and success could really not be achieved by any organization without the involvement of others. Now, such examples will follow shortly from our guest presenters. And lastly, a growing trend and appreciation of the complexity of development and how more can really be achieved when factors come together, when sectors come together to pool resources. And on that note, I'm now going to pass you on to Jamie from SolarAid, who is one of our award winners, to tell us about his story, their story. Jamie, are you on the line?
I am indeed, yes.
Oh, wait, sorry. I've got one. Just to complete the full spectrum of our own awards. So the SDGs that we found that our finalists addressed most was SDG 13, SDG 3, 5, 8, 17, and 2 and 4. We'll be sharing the slides later if you'd like to see exactly which SDGs those are. Sorry about that interruption, Jamie. All for you.
Not a problem. Thank you very much. So hopefully I have control of this, but if not, we can get over it. That'll be absolutely fine. Hi everyone. My name's Jamie McCoskey. I'm the head of program funding for the charity SolarAid, who owns the business Sunny Money, and we work in East Africa distributing affordable solar lights in rural areas. So it's a pleasure to be here with fellow finalists and also fellow award winner Water Health International. So let's get going. So I'm just going to take my few minutes, not to just explain how our model impacts 10 of the 17 SDGs, but how we're able to do that at scale as well. Thank you. So first of all, the really, really important thing, which we do not underestimate, is knowing the problem that you're trying to solve and gearing your business model towards solving that problem. And that comes through not just knowing the problem, but understanding it. So the problem for us is the kerosene lamp. And through over 30,000 research interactions with the public in rural East Africa, and also our customers after that, so having baseline and follow-up, we know that one kerosene lamp uses between 10 and 15% of household income, emits over 1 ton of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere over 3 years. It's a major contributor therefore to indoor air pollution, limits education, and is a serious fire hazard. So once we knew and understood the problem, we needed a solution. And that for us was solar energy. And SolarAid was founded in 2006. Our business, our social enterprise, Sunny Money, in 2009. And during those formative years, we were working throughout the world. We were dealing in smaller solar lights, like you can see on the screen here, but also big solar, so things like panels on schools and clinics. Through understanding the problem, kerosene lamps being used in households, we knew we had to focus. And that's where household solar is where we knew our greatest and most unique impact could be made. Oh, sorry, can we just go back one? Thank you. So we stopped installing panels on schools and clinics, even though it was where we were getting the most money, but we focused on our social impact. And through doing that, we focused on one goal, which was our BHAG, our Big, Hairy, Audacious goal, which is the eradication of the kerosene lamp from Africa. And the impact of this cannot be underestimated for our charity, for our impact, and for our business, because it increases morale, it rallies everyone together, and every element of our business and of our charity is focused towards achieving this goal. Next slide, please. So we're able to implement and to distribute solar lights in a way that others can't. And this is through our hybrid model, a charity who owns a business. And the key benefits of this is we do what many other charities can't by being able to scale through a trade, not aid model. All sales revenue is reinvested into our work, which takes the impact of donations even further. And we do what other businesses won't by spending donor money to reach the last mile, not just to distribute solar lights, but to raise awareness, because we're working in areas where solar lights aren't really a thing that is known, understood. So we spend more money to raise awareness and distribute in hard-to-reach areas, which is not attractive for for-profit companies, but it's the impact that follows, which is the key benefit of a hybrid model, because we lay the groundworks for others to build. We catalyze solar lighting markets where there was market failure before. And through this model, we have now achieved the catalyzation, the first in Africa, of the solar lighting markets in Kenya and Tanzania, and we are no longer needed there. So there's sustainable markets, there's profits being made, there's impact being had, even though we're no longer there. So we're making profits for the entrepreneurs who worked with us, who are still selling lights, and for the businesses who come after. Next slide, please. And the impact of this model, as well as the sustainable impact of being able to catalyze solar lighting markets, is what you can see on the screen. Our direct impact is reaching over 10 million people with affordable solar lights through our own distribution model. And it's the understanding of this impact which is essential to success. So we know the impact through the 30,000 research interactions I mentioned, also working with people like Google, Berkeley, Stanford universities. And this helps to define our business model by understanding what more we could do, whether that's through our business model, by understanding we should work through trusted community members to raise awareness and create initial demand, or it's through innovation, understanding that when our customers were coming to us saying $10 is too much for a solar light, we were just only distributors, but there was no other option. We decided to do something about it, and we made one of the world's most affordable solar lights, retailing around $5, which we launched just last year. So it's the understanding of the impact, which has all these huge numbers you can see on the screen here, but what it really lets you're able to do is form your business model in a way that is understanding of what people need and what the impact can be. Next slide, please. So as I don't know where the title's gone there, but what it says is Sustainable Development Goals. So as I said at the start, our business model impacts 10 of the 17. And these are customer quotes, except for SDG 13 climate action, because that's not really something many of our customers have mentioned to us in rural Africa. But as you can see, this is the true impact of what we're doing, and it wasn't really at any point were we trying to adhere to these SDGs. Our focus was on the goal and who we were trying to reach, but also the problem we were trying to solve and understanding that problem, which is also at a time when no one else was, so we had to do that for ourselves. Next slide, please. And here you can see the impact of these key areas of implementing a program like this. So the first one was 2009, establishing Sunny Money, the business owned by the charity. 2011 was when we adopted our BHAG, which was everything we did was to distribute solar lights, portable solar lights for households to get rid of dirty, toxic kerosene. And you can see the level of growth we have experienced since then. And next slide, please. So this leads me to the 3 top recommendations, which is adopting a big, hairy, audacious goal, like Kennedy's moonshot, trying to reach the moon by the end of the decade, or democratizing the automobile by Ford. It is something that focuses everything you're doing, staff, donors, investors, everything you're doing towards one goal, which is what you know will maximize impact. And the second is obviously would not be applicable to everyone listening here, but it's prioritizing as much as you can social impact over profit, because SolarAid wholly owns Sunny Money, so we can always prioritize social impact over profit. And as we discussed, that leads to innovation, and it leads to iterations in your business model, which reaches more and reaches better. And third is understanding what your impact is. Only through understanding your impact can you make those changes, know how to make those changes, but also you know what you're doing as a business. You'll know if you're effective or if you're not. You may be making money, but you may not be having the impact you're aiming for. So that's the 3 top recommendations. And next slide, please. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Jamie.
Jamie, thanks very much indeed for that fantastic contribution there. I mean, the work of SolarAid and Sunny Money has been fantastic, and it's been great to see you entering the wars a few years ago and really embracing some of the feedback there and really moving your model on so much further and so much faster. 10 million people reached, fantastic, and an absolutely amazing program. And thank you for sharing your insights as to what you feel are the top 3 tips on doing that. Thank you very much indeed.
Pleasure.
So moving now on to Samir Mittal. Samir, well done and congratulations on joining and becoming a winner of the award this year alongside Sunny Money SolarAid. Samir, you're Chief Development Officer of Water Health International, which is focused on healthy drinking water. And we'd like to ask you now, please, to share your insights and your program and how you've approached the SDGs. Thanks very much, Samir.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for joining, and good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. First of all, thank you again to BITC. We're very honored to receive the award. We applied for the first time this year, and very excited to be working with you as we move forward. Am I controlling this, or are you controlling it?
It should work, Samir. If it isn't working, don't worry. I'll just guide me, and I'll work through the slides.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be. So what you're seeing here is what we keep it here, please. What you're seeing here is what we call a water health center, and our business model, when we looked at it, we said we looked at the water business and we thought that the existing model was kind of broken, right? So if you think about how you get water today in most markets, you have a big plant that's built typically by a municipality or a government. It purifies a lot of water. It needs a huge amount of fresh water access or water access, and then you purify 100% of the water, and you build these big pipes, and it goes down into your home, and the pipes get smaller and smaller until you open your tap and you get water out of it. The reality is, what you're seeing here is that the communities that typically that we work in do not have access to clean water. They have access to water, but not what we call safe water. Safe water we define as clean, international quality, WHO-defined drinking water standards. But these pictures that you see are what typically happens in the local markets. And so what we've done is we've built what we call a water health center, which you see on the left, and in that is a full water purification plant. So in the glass area on the left-hand side photograph is a full purification equipment system, and we use technology that is off the shelf. We are not a technology company; we're a services company, which I'll explain. But we think ourselves as technology agnostic. So whenever new technology comes along that we think is appropriate in terms of performance, quality, etc., we can replace whatever we have and use the updated technology. But the center itself is small in footprint. It's about 15 meters by 15 meters. It serves as a community meeting point where people come and can collect the water, as you can see on the right-hand side. But what we do is we do the operations and predictive maintenance of the plant. That's a key USP, so to speak, right? So we make sure that the plant is operating, we make sure it's quality controlled, we make sure the spares are available, and we make sure that the plant is open every day and delivering clean water. And in addition to that, we provide, sorry, stay on the previous slide, please. Yeah. And in addition to that, we do the quality and real-time monitoring. So this is a key piece that most companies don't do. Even if they're doing delivering water, they don't do the quality control. And we make sure that the quality of the water, you wake up at 2 in the morning, you take a sample, you go to an independent laboratory, that water is going to pass the drinking water standards that are relevant. And the last thing that we do is what we call social marketing, which is not your Facebook type work, but is actually real social marketing, which is in the community, spreading the message as to why it's important for people to drink clean water. Yes, next slide, please. So this is just a sample of how we do it. On the bottom right are the types of containers that we deliver in. We don't deliver, we don't do small bottles like 1 liter or ½ liter, but primarily 20-liter bottles, which are in bulk. We sell the water very cheaply. It's the equivalent of roughly 1 US cent per liter. So one of these 20-liter containers is about 20 US cents or less, depending on the country. Which is obviously extremely cheap, regardless of what income category you are in. We also work with entrepreneurs with trucks which are branded, and they go around house to house delivering the water for people who are willing to pay a little bit more, but for the convenience. But nevertheless, still the price point is extremely cheap. Next slide, please. We follow a very sustainable business model, and when we talk about sustainability, we don't talk just about financial sustainability or environmental sustainability. There's 5 categories, which is what's commonly referred to as the FEATS framework, which is financial, institutional, environmental, technical, and social. So you can read that information when you get the slides, but essentially we take a very holistic approach to how we think of sustainability. Next slide, please. This is just to show, when we launch a plant, in any community, we have a community launch event. And what that means is we invite a lot of the dignitaries, the leaders in the community, both elected and unelected, the women in the community, really to show them exactly what we're doing, what the plant does, how they can get access to water, the benefits of the clean water, etc. And you can see different pictures, but really it's a very community-driven initiative that we deploy, both to sell the water as well as to communicate the message. Next slide, please. Right now we have about 500 plants running in India, Ghana, and Nigeria. We're looking to expand our operations both in Africa as well as Asia, and we're looking at some new markets. But as we sit today, on a daily basis, over 7 million people have access to clean water from our roughly 500 plants that we have running. And our goal is really to, as Jamie talked about, a big, hairy, audacious goal is to reach 100 million people in the next 4 to 5 years. So we're very much in scaling mode. We've built our business to scale in terms of our operations, in terms of our management, in terms of our footprint, and we hope to make progress towards that goal in the short term. Next page, please. So we just talked about that. You can see how in this picture people can, get access to our water in at the facility through our containers. Next page. Yeah. So this is a new model that it's a little complicated, but I'll explain it. It's really around how are we working with partners, specifically municipalities and governments. If you look on the big oval shape with the color, that's typically what a water utility will cover. So you have a water source in the middle, and it's got piping to homes. But then even within a large cities like Accra, or Lagos, and Bombay, etc., you have very significant numbers of unserved urban communities. And then you also have these peri-urban communities. Sorry, if you go back.
Just a bit conscious for time, Samir. Yeah. That's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. We have these peri-urban communities on the top right, and then the rural communities. And we can put our water health centers in each of these areas and work with the utilities to ensure full coverage. Yeah, next slide, please. We've built a series of products as we developed our market. On the bottom left, you have the water health center. We've also put the entire business into a shipping container, which can be used for various purposes like disaster relief. The third one from the left is a water ATM. So you can put these in small in areas with high foot traffic, and it's all automated. You can put a coin in, put your bottle, press a button, get the water out. And then the last one is more of a corporate kind of thing where you can put it in corporate settings and do the same thing. Yeah. Next page. So we tackle several of the SDGs, as you can see. Obviously, number 6 is our key one, which is safe water. But because of the way we interact and run the business, we also impact, many of the other SDGs. Yeah, next page. So I just spent a couple of minutes on this, opportunities and challenges. As we heard earlier, there's a 12 trillion opportunity here, and really most of it, I think, is building infrastructure, sanitation, energy, water, education, etc. And what we as Water Health were very happy about was when the name of the goals changed from Millennium to Sustainable, because prior to 2015, when we were doing our business and we were charging for water, we were getting a lot of criticism for charging for something that people thought should be free. And when the goals changed to Sustainable, then people started changing their mindset and saying, okay, to be sustainable, you need to have some kind of business model associated with this. And that really helped us in expanding our business quite significantly. And so that just one word change made a huge difference to our business opportunity. Some of the
I'm going to have to ask you to wrap up, I'm afraid, because we are very tight on time. So okay, last few comments, please.
Okay, I'm just going to talk about the last challenge I talked there, which is financing. It continues to be an issue. Institutions, despite the availability of funds, these are primarily private government and multilateral agencies, have a lot of funding available, but they still, in spite of what they state that they provide low-cost financing, look for dollar and euro-based returns, irrespective of the macro-micro, like inflation and currency depreciations, et cetera, in local markets. And so when you try and approach them and try and get loans or low-interest financing, it's still extremely difficult to do that for businesses like ours. And that's a huge challenge, I think, as all of us move forward, is how do we change that mindset and get some of the risk in terms of the financing spread out, not just to companies like ours, but also to the entities that are funding the initiatives. So thank you for...
Thanks, Samir.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Samir, thank you so much indeed for a really good expression of all that you've done in Water Health. It's just fantastic. Your program is amazing. I think will be an inspiration to many. And I think, we've got so many people on the call today. We've got over 25 people at the Sahid Business School in Oxford with Visit Fight Poverty, and we're very, very, very delighted to be in partnership with working with Visit Fight Poverty, working with you, also working with everybody else who's on this call and who's done such great work so far on the sustainable development goals. And we know there's so much more to do. And that whole issue about how do we readdress financing, how do we make a more holistic approach to all of these things. Samir is a great note to end your presentation on, and come into, please, welcoming Agro-America and Bernardo Ruiz. Look, very keen to hear your comments about your amazing program at Agro-America. which was also a finalist for our Unilever Global Development Award. So please, Bernardo, please would you like to share your insights?
Well, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. I don't know if you're listening to me okay?
Yes, thank you. We can hear you very well.
Okay, thanks. Well, we are a banana company that we work in Latin America. And basically what we have done is to develop a way how to know if salary that our people working in the fields was enough for them to live, have a decent life. There's a lot of different methodologies to know that, but usually there are more, they came from the union side to negotiate different conditions with the workers and the unions. Our approach was known for ourselves if we have a decent salary to our workers. And to answer that question is not an easy job when you want to know exactly, go to the bottom of the situation and knowing exactly what's going on. So we have to figure out our own way to know that. And basically what we have done is that we have get into the way of life of our workers and knowing exactly how they spend their money. And there's a basic law that says that the more of your income you spend in food, that you can measure that, because the rule of thumb is that around 40% should be on food and the rest on different stuff that you need for a decent life, like education, entertainment, medicines, whatever. So we try to measure that, and with that we match our program that we have. For example, in this slide we have working with the wives of our workers, and we work with them and try to teach them how to feed their kids and clean water, and trying to know exactly how their body works and everything, so they can have a more healthy life. The next slide. We're going to move very fast on these slides. We also open a private school in one of our facilities, because the public school there is very bad. So we have to do something, and we try to make an exemplary school for them. So with these kids in there and the fathers working with us together, then we develop the rest of the programs of the happy families that I mentioned before. Next one. Then with this, what we try is to know exactly the impact that we have on the SDGs. And for us, we have been the first, last year was the first one that we tried to make an alliance of what we were doing and the SDGs. And with this, it was very, very useful, because we used them how to present the idea that we were working with, and how we can really brought the aspects of what the company is impacting in our workers and in the communities that we work. This has been very useful, because we are talking with a common language to all others, NGOs and international partners and our customers. So this can bring more alliance with everybody that wants to work in a different aspects of the SDG. So for us has been very, very useful, and the living wage program is in a very holistic way, because we have discovered a lot of different things that were completely unknown for us before. For example, we thought that the income of our workers was the main driver, that's the main reason why they don't have a very decent life, in terms of when you go to visit their homes and what you see there, and how the quality of food and facilities they have for clean water and everything else. But we get into a more deeper aspects of that. For example, the gender situation. We know that the workers don't give enough money to their wives. So it was a good cultural thing, and we have to do something. So what we do to try to get into that, but not to be abusive with their families, how they relate, is that we change our way of paying the workers. Instead of paying them in cash, we pay them with a debit card, and we open accounts in the bank and everything. So now the wives can know exactly how much money their husbands are earning. So with that, more money gets into the family, and we have been seeing different things. We have also another type of results that we have in the screen right now. We have been very open to can you not go to the other slide, please? One before. Yeah. We have been very open to the other colleagues in the region to see what we were doing and show them exactly what type of findings we have, so they know exactly what we are doing, so we can really share and try to make more people to join us in these efforts. We have also have an impact on our reputations between our main buyers of our fruit, so that give us the opportunity to make better things. For example, we have a WWF alliance to adapting climate change to our farms, but not also to our farms, but also to the other small growers that are in the area. So we share the information with them and some capacity buildings. Also, we try to be help us in a leadership in terms of the CSR programs, and this has been very useful for our local relations with the stakeholders. Next one. And also, as we know what's going on, we can really do and frame better CSR programs. Some we have abandoned because we know that the results were not there, and some others are more interesting. For example,
Bernardo, can I ask you to begin to wrap up now, please?
Okay. In this picture, for example, you can see two types of homes. The one that we have seen in the first was a very common that have problem with water, sanitation, and everything. And the other one has been putting more money in their houses, more education, and more accountability on their husband's salary. So the idea is to drive that salary to a better spending, and this is not an easy job and takes time. So, and also we have been empowering our women to work with, and they have been very committed, and we have been giving bananas to schools and in a program that we get all together with the workers and with the community members that are in the farm. So the challenge, and I end with this, is that we have to put more people in this. We as a company alone, we don't make any money of these programs. These have been through alliances with the other partners, and that means government agencies, NGOs, and other colleagues that are in the region. And that's the challenge, to put everybody in the same path. I think that I have covered all this. So the last one is to have a lot of patience with this.
Bernardo, thank you. Thank you very much indeed. And the importance of being in it for the long term is so important. And the work that you've managed to do in Guatemala is really impressive. It's so impressive. The judges are very impressed with you when you came and presented it, as with all of the case studies. But this was particularly interesting because you're based in Guatemala. You have a very different market sector, a very different marketplace. and you have done this in such a holistic way. It was extremely impressive. So thank you for all your contribution there. And so now moving on to Katie and Sarah from Barclays and GSK, respectively, who have created an absolutely incredible program which has been built over time and really has been developed over many years. So may I please ask you both, Katie and Sarah, to please present the Barclays Partnership and the Live Well program.
Hi, it's Katie here. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you, Katie, we can.
Fantastic. So I'm going to start off and then I'll hand over to Sarah. You're pleased to hear that I'm 5 slides away from finishing. And what we're going to do is we're going to tell you a bit of our story. So part of this is a story of our of how 2 corporates kind of readdress and develop their own business models, so very commercial businesses. And part of this is actually we're trying to share our learnings. We didn't necessarily get everything right, and we want to share that with you guys. So I'm going to sort of take some assumptions that amongst the audience here, we've got a few who are sitting within big businesses trying to figure out how to embed, develop, and embrace the SDGs for their own businesses who are otherwise often engaged with just focused on economic returns. So if we can scroll to the first slide, what we have are 2, quite frankly, very, very financially focused and highly regulated industries, one a bank, one a healthcare provider, coming together with, as many people have said so far on this webinar, it's about having a kind of shared challenge, shared purpose. And what happened with us was that both of our CEOs, respectively, at the time in 2013, recognised that we had we as businesses have shared challenges, which was really to help rural communities across developing countries access both finance and healthcare. And you'd think that they would be very separate topics, but often they kind of go hand in hand. And really, just to kind of give you a little bit background on the partnership before Sarah looks at some of the solutions that we went into. What we were really trying to create was sustainable healthcare networks and also economic viability for those rural developing countries. We zoomed in on Zambia, so we chose a developing country between us that we had both got existing networks in, but that we knew that we needed to really develop. And why Zambia? Well, there's only 1 to 5,000 people. There's only 1 doctor per 5,000 people, so healthcare really, really hard to find, hard to reach, and 42% of people are living in extreme poverty. So financial inclusion, a big issue. So we coupled together, we joined together in partnership. Oh, if we can scroll back 1 slide. Came together in partnership in a bold way to say, right, we're looking for that sort of shared value sweet spot where we can be both societally useful and deliver commercial value at the same time. And we then wanted to apply a test and learn ethos, i.e. we didn't have the solutions, but we were ready to fail, but keep trying to develop that healthcare network and that financial inclusion. So I'm now going to hand over to Sarah to tell you a bit more about some of the solutions that we found and the challenges on the way.
Thanks, Katie. So can you all hear me?
Yes, Sarah, we can hear you. Thank you.
Can you go back to the previous slide? So as Katie, the one after this one. Yes, exactly. So as Katie was describing, as a partnership, we had several different work streams that we were working towards. And one of the things that developed out of that was what we call Live Well, which is a social enterprise that's been launched in Zambia. Live Well, we are still, as the partnership, we're still working on other concepts as well and in other countries, but Live Well is the furthest along so far. So the Live Well social enterprise was really launched in order to increase access to healthcare and also to improve economic livelihoods. And the way that it works is that the business recruits and trains community health entrepreneurs, so people in the community who either have some health background, some health training, but they don't necessarily have to. They're really people who are very interested in having their own business and supporting their family income and providing some supplementary income. So the Live Well business enables these entrepreneurs to earn an income by selling essential products such as diarrhea treatment kits, painkillers, toothpaste, solar lamps, and the product selection really, we have a whole working group that's just for product selection, and they're very focused on meeting the local needs. So these entrepreneurs go out house to house selling products, because this is a peri-urban and a rural model, and particularly in the rural areas, these households are 5-10 kilometers away from even the nearest retail outlet, retail store, to buy basic painkillers and toothpaste and malaria nets and all of that kind of thing. So these entrepreneurs sell those products and address the real needs that they have on a day-to-day basis. The goal of Live Well is not only to help the entrepreneurs to build up their income, but also to be a sustainable business in the long term with the sales that are generated to the entrepreneurs. So if you go to the next slide, this really captures the different SDGs that Live Well is contributing towards. Of course, we've got the good health and well-being. Sorry, some of the titles didn't come out there, but we've got the economic growth. Those are the two main ones. But of course, we have the partnerships, which is a very big piece of it because of the Barclays GSK partnership, and also CARE International and CARE Zambia have actually been the ones to get the business up and running on the ground. And they still provide technical support on the ground to Live Well. We've got gender equality, 62% of the entrepreneurs are women, and we've also got well, maybe that's it. So on the next slide, as Katie mentioned, we really, part of the partnership goals was to make sure that we shared the lessons that we learned, and we were very much open to testing and failing and moving quickly. So one of the lessons that we learned was that we, in this kind of a partnership and these kinds of initiatives, not to be afraid of dead ends. In other words, don't be afraid to fail, but if you're going to fail, fail fast so that you can adapt and rebuild and try something new that's based upon what you've learned. There's also other lessons like finding the right partner. So, figuring out exactly what's needed and getting the right expertise to complement what you are bringing to the table. So we think we've done that very well with having Barclays, a financial institution, GSK, a healthcare company, and then CARE, who has the strong relationship on the ground and the very good expertise in capacity building. And finally, just to make sure that your model meets both social and business needs. I think a lot of times, and someone mentioned previously, with the Millennium Development Goals, the focus was on social impact, but now we really need to make sure that we've got that business impact in there. So, for example, for GSK, we've got 5 products that are in the basket of medicines that are sold. Within that, there's been about 70,000 products sold so far, of which over 50% are GSK sales. So GSK is definitely benefiting from this. We've also worked with Barclays to use the support that they have from their Ready to Work program, and we've gained valuable market insights into particularly the rural area of Zambia for both companies. So we have this report that Accenture helped us to develop, and we can send out a link to this lessons learned report because there's many more lessons. I think we had 15 lessons or so that we provided in this report. I'll hand back to Katie if there's anything else you wanted to say.
I think you've covered most of that, Sarah. So just to wrap up, there's one more slide just with a little quote to leave you all from Elsie. But basically, if anybody wants further thinking on or support on this or any questions, we're really happy to take them. We have learnt a lot on this journey, and we are still on it. And certainly bringing 2 quite large businesses together has yeah, it's been a great adventure and great partnership. Thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you both very much indeed. That's a fantastic presentation and an amazing program. And as you say, two huge organizations really taking on the challenge of partnership and doing it so beautifully along with care. It's an amazing program. Thank you very much for sharing it with everybody. So without further ado, we'll go straight into questions. A number of questions have come in on the feed, there were some very interesting ones. I think one of the questions that was raised was how, with SolarAid and Sunny Money, where you open markets, you've gone into Tanzania and you've opened a market, you've established a market, and you've left the market hoping it will be sustainable. How do you check that it continues to be sustainable once you've left the market?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. So at a more localized level as an organization, we have every light that we sell comes with a warranty, most of the time 2 years. So for us, we have to be responsible in leaving countries. We can't just leave the entrepreneurs we work with without access to solar lights on a wholesale basis. Also, we can't leave our customers without their warranties. So Tanzania, for example, we transferred all of that information to a partner organization called ARTI Energy, ARTI Energy, who now handle that for us. So we know that for our customers, for our resellers, excuse me, that is still a working, sustainable model. And on more a holistic scale, we are part of the Global Off-Grid Lighting Association, who work with IFC, BNEF, multiple organizations who track the success, the growth of markets. And you know, we know that it's not perfect. The markets that are there, you get some fake products, etc., etc. But we are able to, as a sector together, responsibly grow these markets together.
Thanks very much, Jamie. That's really helpful. Another question. There's lots of tweets, a lot of feeds coming in, a lot of your presentations as they were coming through. And one of the questions there for you, Water Health International, Samir, one of the questions for you is, you were talking about other markets you were thinking about going into. What other markets are you thinking about going into, and how are you deciding where to go?
Yeah, so again, a very good question. So we're looking at expanding our business both in Africa and Asia, as I mentioned. Some of the markets we're looking at are, some of the larger markets, as you might imagine, like Indonesia, China, potentially Kenya, Tanzania, and the way we look at these markets is we do 2 levels of feasibility study. One is you get a lot of information just doing secondary research, like desk-based research, and talking to people in the market to understand what the problems are, what the regulatory environment is, what the water situation on the ground is. And then as we narrow down the number of options, then we actually send feasibility teams in country to verify the secondary information and obviously also to collect more detail on the ground data. We have a fairly structured set of information that we collect, and we also have a financial model that we've developed that allows us to determine the viability of the business, because as you've seen, our business is predicated on scale, and we don't necessarily go into a market and just put in a few units. Our goal is to build it at scale, so the opportunity needs to be fairly significant. And we understand that as you enter a new market, you typically lose money because you don't have the scale, although your operations are set up to manage a certain level of business. The business is not at that level, as you enter. But we expect that over time, that scale comes in, and then the economics start playing out as we expect it to. So it's a fairly rigorous and structured approach that we use. And then, of course, we also look for partners in local markets that can help us in building the business. So it's a multifaceted approach, but very structured.
Thank you. Thanks very much indeed for that, Samir. Now, as we sadly roll out of time, which is always a huge shame because we know there's an awful lot of interest and feeds here. If any of you have any further questions that you'd like to ask, please send them to us, and we will feed them over to the presenters, the various presenters here. But thank you, everybody, for an incredible contribution. what you've all been doing as Solar Aid Sunny Money, as Water Health International, as Agro-America, and as Barclays GSK, you've really, really demonstrated how you can build a really sustainable business model and how you've demonstrated the economic case for action. And that's fantastic. And Richard, your work at Business Fights Poverty and your new publication is fantastic. And we will make sure that we share these links, including your link too from Barclays GSK, your overview. We'll share those links with everybody so that they can come to it and see more about it. So thank you very much indeed. We were going to do a section on useful tools, but actually the key tools have been mentioned. The SDG Compass tool, which was developed by the WBCSD, the GRI, KPMG, and supported by Oxfam as well. That's an amazing tool. I'm sure all of you will be very familiar with that, but we will make sure again that we make the link clear to you. We'll send the link out because it really is so valuable in helping you to identify, define, and rationalize and refine the goals, the targets that you want to actually address. So without further ado, actually, we'd just like to thank all of you for joining us in this webinar this afternoon, to thank Business Fight Poverty for your support and for all of your organizations and efforts in all that you're doing. We're really grateful that you were able to join us from the business school in Oxford and to have that group join the webinar as well. And for those of you, some of you might have colleagues and friends who tried to join the webinar who weren't able to. We were so oversubscribed, it was a real problem. So I'm so sorry. It's a great problem to have. It's great for all of us to know that we were oversubscribed and therefore didn't have enough lines to be able to take everybody. But we are going to put this recording on our website so all of you, and you can share it with your friends and colleagues and networks. Please share the link. We're going to share that on the website and everybody can rehear, if you could call it rehearing, but you can listen again to the presentations, which were so valuable. So thank you very much, Richard. Thank you very much, Jamie. Thank you very much, Bernardo. Thank you very much, Samir, Katie, and Sarah. Thanks so much for all of your fantastic efforts. Congratulations on being finalists and winners of the Unilever Global Development Award. Thank you for continuing your work and for helping to build a fairer society and a more sustainable future for all. Thanks also to my team, Elizabeth and Lydia, both here, who help the technology work, because I want you to know, people, that whilst I might be doing all the talking, I have no clue what to do if the technology fails us. And I'm pleased to say that today, the gremlins were on our side. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a great afternoon, a great morning, or a great evening. All the best. This is In the Community, and that's us. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.